Did you know that tuberculosis still kills over 1 million people every year, despite being curable for nearly 70 years? Imagine a disease so deeply woven into our history that it shaped cities, inspired fashion, and yet today remains hidden behind walls of stigma and neglect. That's the startling truth this book challenges us to face as we uncover the human stories at the center of it all. John Green, the author behind The Fault in Our Stars and The Anthropocene Reviewed, wrote this book after spending time in Sierra Leone with Partners in Health in 2019. He saw how tuberculosis devastated real lives, even in the modern era. Published in March of 2025, the book grew out of years of research and advocacy. Green wrote as a global health advocate and storyteller, using his curiosity to turn overwhelming statistics into carefully human stories. At its heart, this book argues something simple and powerful. Tuberculosis is not primarily a medical mystery anymore. It is a human-made crisis. That is the core idea. Green walks us through key lessons that bring that thesis to life. First, he explores tuberculosis's long history and the ways it reshaped human society. From the Romantic era, when TB was seen as a poetic illness, to its discovery as an infectious plague, the disease molded cities like Colorado Springs, led to architectural innovations like Adirondack chairs, and even influenced fashion with pale beauty ideals. He shows us that tuberculosis is more than biology. It is a force that shaped how we lived. To bring this home, he shares the story of how the cowboy hat became famous because its creator moved west seeking dry air as a cure. Recognizing this history invites us to reflect on how disease and society constantly interact, and to ask ourselves what forces today we fail to see shaping our lives. Next, he introduces us to Henry, a young tuberculosis patient in Sierra Leone whom he met in 2019. Henry's story is heartbreaking and hopeful. Misdiagnosis, drug-resistant TB, long walks to clinics, side effects, hunger, isolation. His mother fought to get him personalized medicines that are scarcely available in poorer countries, and ultimately, he survives. Now, he studies at university and advocates for TB patients via social media. Henry's life is proof that tuberculosis is curable, but only if we choose to fight for access. Hearing his day-to-day struggle, we're invited to reflect on how privilege shapes survival and what we might do, even in small ways, to support equitable care. Then Green turns to why this disease persists despite modern medicine. He lays out the vicious cycles. Poverty causes TB. TB worsens poverty. Malnutrition and crowded housing fuel infection. Stigma silences suffering. Weak healthcare systems fail. Rich countries move on, poor ones suffer. As he writes, this is not biology alone. It is political economy. He shares stories from Sierra Leonean clinics where patients skip doses because they can't afford food, versus his own struggle with prescriptions in the US. Side effects and mental health challenges are universal, but access is not. That comparison reveals one insight. Compassion must be matched with systems that care. From there, he shows how TB became a disease of inequality in the 20th century. Before Koch identified the bacillus, TB was romanticized across class lines. After germ theory, it became the disease of the poor, the marginalized. Green details how TB was mischaracterized by colonial powers as a disease of civilization or whiteness, denying its prevalence in colonized communities. By unpacking how we imagine illness, he reminds us that these stories persist and shape policy. A reflection. How do the stories we tell about disease influence who receives care? Finally, he offers hope and action. Because TB is curable and preventable, it should not exist at scale. Green shares his advocacy experiences, petitioning Johnson & Johnson to make bedaquiline affordable, urging for rapid diagnostic access, and pushing policymakers to reverse aid cuts. He speaks at the UN and rallies his Vlog Brothers audience. His message is clear. We can choose virtuous cycles. If we invest in healthcare, fund preventative measures, and treat everyone with dignity, we can end tuberculosis. His voice is earnest. We are the cause, but we can also be the cure. As we move from one idea to the next, the narrative flows like a caring conversation. The history builds into the human story, which leads into the economics of inequality, which turns into the power of narrative, and finally, the call to act. By the end, the threads weave together into a hopeful vision. Tuberculosis shaped our world, but our choices now shape its future. It's not only a disease, it's a challenge. Will we continue cycles of neglect or build cycles of care? In summary, John Green brings us a deeply human, historically rich, emotionally resonant book that insists on urgency. He tells us that TB is curable, preventable, and that access, not science, is the problem. He shows us through history, personal stories, and analysis that ending tuberculosis is possible, but demands moral clarity and collective commitment. We are invited not just to learn, but to care. I hope this summary inspires you to pick up John Green's book and explore these stories more deeply. Share your thoughts about Henry, the history, or what actions you might take. If this video sparked something in you, please like, comment, and subscribe. There's much more ahead. And remember, every choice matters.